So check it out. I put together a simple chart here, and it's very, very straightforward. Can anybody tell me what the relationship is between income and value, right? Right? There's an old formula we have. It's called I equals RV. Can anybody tell me what that means, what that formula means? It's the basis for all valuation of income properties, right? Basically, what it means, I equals RV. That's our old buddy Irv, okay? Income equals rate times value. Now, if you know any two of those variables, you can figure out the third. So in this case, you know, we know what the income of a building is, right? That's something that doesn't change just overnight. It changes with annual increases, but it doesn't change from moment to moment. We know, and then one thing that we're discussing is the change in interest rate that has occurred, okay? So let's just take, for argument's sake, the fact that the lending rate was let's just it doesn't matter what the exact local area cap rate is, but whatever it is, it just changed by 0.75%. So I'm going to use 6% as an indicator for what it is worth, right? So this is what we're going to show you, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to value a 6% cap rate on $100,000 of income, okay? So can anybody tell me what $100,000 of NOI will equal to in terms of rate? The way that you do that, the way that you figure that out, is you take 100,000 and you divide it by 0.06. Everybody with me so far? Everybody with me so far? Okay, cool. So what we're going to do? Okay, so we're going to take 100,000 divided by 0.06. Boom. Very, very simple. Okay, so a building, and what this means is a building that is bringing in $100,000 of net operating income. That's income minus expenses is going to equal your net operating income. If you're bringing in $100,000 of NOI, the value of the building to the market at a 6% interest rate or a 6% cap rate would be 1.666 million. Does everybody see that? I just want to lay the foundation pretty slowly so we can understand what's going on. We're going to get really in depth in just a second, but that's like a basic principle, right? So income equals rate times value. In order to figure out what the value is, when you know the income and you know what the cap rate is, right? Then you're going to know that income divided by cap rate will equal your value. That's the first formula. So everybody cool with that? Give me a thumbs up. Give me a +1 in the chat if you're good with that. Just give me a +1 just so I know that everybody is good. Cool. Okay, I see Laura's dropping in. I see, okay, Rosa's dropping in. Okay, cool. Here's the next thing, guys, right? So let's take that exact same building, okay? The exact same $100,000, right? Guess what? Last week, that building was worth 1.6 million. A week ago today, right? Last Monday, before the interest rate increase. Now, can anybody tell me, all right? And guys, I need participation here. I need you engaging with me, okay? I need you guys to tell me, does anybody know whether or not the value goes up when the interest rate goes up or it goes down? All right, I need everybody on here. Rosa, Hardin, Laura, Edward. Let's see, I'm calling everybody out. Martin, Catherine. Guys, let me know whether the value goes up when the interest rate increases or the value goes down when the interest rate increases. Anybody? Okay, Ed says up, Rosa says up. Anybody else? Martin, Catherine. Hardin says down. Okay, Catherine, up or down? Martin, up or down? What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Laura, what do you think? Up or down? Okay, Laura says up. Okay. Guess what, guys? This is what we're here to figure out. This is why you are here. Okay, so this is going to equal, okay, at a 6.7%, 0.75% cap rate, right? Look at this. We're going to take that and we're going to divide it by this here, right? And what happened, guys? Did it go up or did it go down? Right? It went down. Exactly, Laura, right? So what happened is, exactly, Hardin, you were right. You get the gold star today, buddy. Good to see you, man. Thank you for tuning in from New Jersey. So what we're trying to do, guys, is we're trying to understand, okay, great. Okay, now that we know that it went down, how much, right? Because people, if you were just to say to a seller, hey, Mr. Seller, did you know that the effect that the interest rates is having on your building? Guess what? Your property just went down in value. They're going to say, okay, great. What's the next thing you're going to say? How much, right? The thing you have to know and you have to be able to understand and then interpret to them is how much their property was affected by what's going on with the economy. And the reason why we're having this conversation is because this is going to allow you to all those people that are on the fence. This is going to allow you, this is going to be the tipping point, this right here. This is awesome. Okay. So it's not just a matter of understanding facts and figures. It's not just a question of reading headlines. The thing you're trying to understand is this is the headline. This is what it means. This is the conversation you have with your clients, or this is the conversation you have with a prospect. You guys with me on that? Headline, meaning conversation, right? It is our job as real estate professionals to decode what's happening and to be able to show, okay, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, because most people, they don't understand. They really don't. They're busy running their business. Some people will understand, but they're definitely in the minority. There might be 15 or 20% that are really going to understand what this means. And that's why our jobs are so valuable, because we get to tell them exactly what it means and the effect that it's going to have. Some people just think that, like, I can't tell you. I've been cold calling 35,000 plus calls, right? To investment grade, owners and stuff like that. 90% of them think that the value of their building has something to do with the value of the building down the street. I swear, I can't make this up. They think that comparative sales are the way that you value income producing assets. And it drives me nuts, because I'm like, do you understand you own $3 or $4 million worth of real estate and you think that it's valued the same way your house does? It's not. Okay. How's it valued? Rents come in, expenses go out, NOI is left over. You take an NOI, you apply a cap rate to it. That's how you get the value of the building. Newsflash, it's not comparative sales. Okay. So, but my point is, you guys are going to be able to decode this information for people. You're going to be able to explain what these headlines mean and how to interpret them, and then what the best course of action is for them. You guys with me? So guys, give me a thumbs up if this is helping you at all. Because I want you to be able to equip you guys with another arrow in your quiver, so that you can be able to have the right conversations. If you can understand not only what this headline says, anyone can read a headline, but what it means and how to best guide your clients, that's what we're hoping for. Because if you have a conversation that nobody else is having with them, guess who's going to stand out, right? If you see 10 white doves and a crow in a row, which one are you going to pay attention to? The one that stands out from the rest. Our job here, guys, is to provide value and make you stand out from the rest. Okay. So the biggest thing that you can do is understand what this means. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put this into perspective for you, right? So now we're going to take this minus this equals, okay. So in this particular case, $100,000 worth of NOI. Okay. We changed the cap rate by 0.75%. Okay. That's what they just changed the interest rate for, right? That's so the interest rates are increasing. The cost of funds that it's going to take for you to borrow money it's increasing. So now look at this, guys. The value of that building just went down $185,000 last week with one change of interest rate. Now, here's the thing you want to know. What does that mean? Okay, we're gonna drill down a little further. 185,000 divided by 1,666,666, right? What does that mean? So what we're going to do is, what this means here, guys, okay, is that the value of that property just went down 11% last week alone. If you had bought a stock and it went down 11% in a week, people would be ready to jump out the window. They'd be ready to sell the stock, right? So what does this all mean? For the longest time, values of property have been going up and up and up and up. I bought some properties a couple of years ago, and the value went up like 45–50% in like a 2-year period post-COVID, right? Guess what? That's stopping, okay? And that trend is not only stopping, but it's also reversing. They just went down 11% last week alone. Do you guys see where I got that? All I took was the difference between what it was worth at a 6 cap and what it's now worth at a 6.7 cap with the same interest, or with the same NOI. And the difference is 185,000. Okay, guys, give me a 2 in the chat. Type the number 2 in the chat if you understand how I came across that number. I'll stop for you guys. I want you to understand this. Hardin, Rosa, Catherine, Martin, do me a favor, guys. Reach out on those keyboards. Give me a 2. Okay, I see Laura. I see. Okay, cool. Yeah, people. Ed says, does that mean it is a buyer's market? Not yet. No, just because it started, like, it's like the tide, right? That's a really good question. It's not a buyer's market. It's a buyer's market when there are more more sellers than buyers. So this is just like, I don't know if you guys live in any place where like near the water, but like the tide comes in, the tide goes out. But it takes like 12 full hours for you to cycle from high tide to low tide because the tide goes in and out twice a day, right? So what is going to happen is we just hit high tide and now the tide is starting to recede. You with me? So it is less of a seller's market than it was a month ago, a week ago, frankly, but I read something that said that they're talking about another now. Okay, just so you guys know, there's a bunch of weird economics terms. Okay, there's what are called basis points. Basis points means nothing more than 100 basis points equals 1%. That's all. Okay, so the interest rate was raised 0.75% or 75 basis points. People just like to sound fancy. It doesn't mean anything more than that, right? So, but they're talking about 175 extra basis points that the interest rates are going to be raised by the end of the year. The rate you're showing is interest rate, not cap rate, right? Yeah. So what I'm doing, Harden, I'm showing it, the effect now. There's a direct connection between interest rate and cap rate, right? And what I'm showing you is that if the localized area cap rate was 6, what people would be willing to purchase a property for in this area a week ago, now banks are going to start increasing their rates. Now that they're going to need to get a 6 3/4 for it to make sense, guys. Also, the way it works with lending rates and so forth, right? If you can go to the bank and you can borrow money at, let's say, a 5%, right? That's called your cost of capital at 5%. Okay, I got, here we go, guys. Let's do a test. If I could borrow money at 5% from the bank, okay, and I can buy a building and get 5% rate of return, is that something you guys would do? Just give me a quick Y or N. Would you borrow money and then buy a building that brings you in a 5% rate of return? Can anybody tell me? Give me a Y or an N. Martin, Ed, Harden, Laura, Rosa, Catherine. Tell me, guys. Yes. Okay. I see a couple yeses. All right. Okay. Yes. All right. I'm going to say no on that one, guys. And I'll tell you why. Because it's like this. I'm going to borrow money from my friend, and it's going to cost me $100 to borrow money from that friend. And I'm going to loan it out to my other friend. Okay. And that friend is going to give me $100. Right. So I take that $100 that I get from this person, and then I pay the person that I borrowed it from. But there's risk involved with, maybe this person doesn't pay me, but I still have to pay the $100 back, right? So you see, if your money that you're getting in terms of a cap rate, right? If the money the percent that you're getting in income equals the amount you have to pay the bank, that's not a good investment. You always want to have what's called a spread. What is a spread? If you borrow money at, let's say, 5%, and what you want to do is you want to have between 1.5 and 2 points of spread. Meaning, if you borrow it at a 5, you're going to want to get at least a 5.5. I'm sorry, a 6.5 or 7, right? A percent. Because what happens is what that 1.5 to 2 points does is it gives you a little bit of buffer. That's called your spread. That's your spread above your cost of funds. So you don't want to borrow money at a 5 and have an investment that pays you a 5. Because what happens if one tenant moves out? That 5% rate of return turns into a 4%, 3%, whatever. You have a 2-tenant building. Next thing you know, and one tenant moves out, that 5 cap turns into a 2.5 cap. You with me, guys? So it's very, very important to be making more money from your investment property than you are paying out to your lender, because that's going to ruin your credit if you default on that loan, right? So you cannot do that. So you always have to have kind of like that margin of safety, right? So the point is, guys, what we want to understand is, but that was a good question, Martin. What we want to understand is that the interest rates, with them going up, every tick up is going to bring the value of the property down. It's simple math, guys. This is not my opinion. This is fact. Okay. If it gets more expensive to borrow money, then investors they're always going to want that 1.5 to 2 points, and that's going to keep ticking up. So like, let's say you used to be able to borrow money at 5%, and they were willing to accept a 6.5%. That 5% just went to 5 3/4. That 6.5 just went to 7 1/4. You with me? And as the cap rate goes up, the value goes down. They are inversely related. Think about two children on a seesaw. Well, you know, they're going back and forth. Okay. Price goes up, cap rate goes down, cap rate goes up, price goes down. Does that make sense, guys? Right? Type seesaw in the comments if that makes sense to you. I want you to be able to remember that. You need to be able to understand this, and then more importantly, teach this or explain this to the people that you have conversations with. So type seesaw, S-E-E-S-A-W in the comments. Go ahead and let me know that you're getting this, guys. I'd be happy to go back and explain it. But what I want to do is I want to break it down for you in a relatively simple fashion so that you can explain it to somebody that you're on the phone with or somebody that you're seeing. Okay, awesome. You guys are getting this. Sweet. Okay, so guys, look at this. Now I'm going to break this down further, right? Okay, in this particular example, right? We're going to take that 11%, 11.1. We're going to take that and you're going to divide it by 3. What that means is for every increase at that particular NOI, right? And at that 6% cap rate, at every increase by a quarter of a point, typically they move things by a quarter of a point, right? Every quarter of a point increase in interest rate, the value goes down 3.7%. Okay, so let's change this up, right? Let's make this a 7 cap. Okay, and let's make this a 7.75 cap. All right, the numbers change slightly, but I want you to understand the relationships. Okay, if you were borrowing money at a 5.5 cap, right, and you want to make sure you want the cap rate on the building you want to have is going to be a 7% because you have a 1.5 of spread, right? Remember how I said how you borrow money at 5.5, you want to have a margin of safety, a buffer. Okay, so the cap rate that you desire on a building is 7%, or an investor desires, right? A week ago, that investor would have been willing to pay $1.4 million for $100,000 of NOI. Now, because that interest rate's going up, the desired cap rate has to go up, and now they're willing to pay $1,290,000, right? They just went down at this particular price point or in this cap rate range. It went instead of being an 11% decrease, it was a 9.7% decrease, guys. It's basically the same. It's going to vary slightly, but I want you to understand. So this is for 3/4 of a point. This is for 1/4 of a point at these numbers, right? The relationship you need to be able to explain to building sellers is every time that 1/4 point goes up, your building goes down by 3 or 4%, right? What does that mean, Mr. Seller? I know you wanted $2 million for your building, but guess what? That $2 million building is now worth about 10% less. That $2 million building is worth $1.8 million now. And every time the government ticks up that interest rate by 1/4 of a point, it's going to drop another between 3 and 4%. Does that make sense? And then what you do is you don't just say 3 or 4% because that number will go over their head. You'll say, which in your case, 3% on $1.8 million, that's going to be every tick is down 60,000, down 60,000, another 60,000, right? So the government, and then you can, I'll tell you what, guys, what I love to do when I'm going to a listing presentation, I love to bring headlines. I love to bring information. I love to show them, don't listen to me, right? I'm the guy that wants to sell your building. Brokers might tell you stories, but the numbers will never lie to you. The headlines, they're not going to lie to you. They're not going to, they're going to show you right here. Look, the government plans to increase the interest rate by another X by the end of the year. In this case, it's 1.3% is what I just read last week. That's what they're guesstimating right now. We do know they definitely voted for a 3/4% increase. So this is real. This is actual, what you're seeing on the screen here. Okay, guys? But you can have that conversation because all things equal, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, would you rather sell now? Or would you rather sell at a lower price? If you're thinking about selling in the next 5 to 10 years, now is the highest your building's ever going to be worth. In fact, your building was worth $200,000 more this time last week if they're selling like a $2 million building. You guys with me? Is this helping you guys at all, guys? Give me a +1 in the chat if this is helping you. If this is helping you understand not only what the headline is saying, but what that means, and then how you actually communicate with people and the effect that it's going to have, right? I tell you what, if I was selling my car, right, and last week it was worth 10% more than is worth next week, and then the government's talking about in the next 6 months increasing that more than double, that building could be worth 20% less than it was last week, than it is today, right? So that would be 30%. So it's entirely possible by January 1st, that building be worth 30% less than it was a week ago. You guys with me? These are the conversations that get listing agreements signed. These are the conversations that help you build your portfolio. These are the conversations that you need to be having. Most importantly, these are the conversations that most brokers are not having. Are you guys with me? You see the power in this? This should give you 3 to 5 listings in the next 6 months. This conversation right here, this 30 minutes you just spent with me, this should give you 3 to 5 listings. It could put an extra $100,000 in your pocket. This conversation alone right here. You guys with me?